prepared a few topics today, so we will start again with just the usual 5-finger method to get back into the habit, following up on last time. Then the same then we do something about data import lead quality. This is some of my students will know that already. Then we do this follow up with unregistered customers website sign up event. And lastly, we will focus again, if we still have time, on org strategy. Good. Before we get started, Mohit, how has the last 7 days been?
Good. Trying to close many things at work so that, I can focus on the last 10 or 12 days before my board. So yeah, it's a little bit stressful. So, but yeah, it's okay. That's life.
How do you feel?
I think feeling good, but I need probably a day for myself just to relax and, again, focus on the scenarios because I think this time it's important to be in the right state of mind. But yeah, I'm now, there is no going back. So looking forward to the exam.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Okay, so we can get started. You know the first exercise already. Mohit, what's my favorite food?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
Thank you. Perfect. Then, simple startup question. We have an inside sales team which uses Salesforce, and they have to qualify the leads, asking different questions based on their country. What do you recommend?
So in order to qualify leads, I would recommend a quick action screen flow on the lead record for scoring the leads. My assumption there is that, okay, cut the graph. That's it.
Even too much. Even you don't have to say the assumption. It's
okay.
To practice to stop as quickly as possible. I mean, it's sure it takes a little bit of practice to know sometimes you have to state the assumption, sometimes not, but rather 80-90% of the time you just say, I recommend. Okay. So again, we would like, so can you try again?
So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action screen flow on the lead record.
Perfect. Again?
In order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action-based screen flow on the lead record.
Okay, good. Just a little bit, we try now.
Yoga? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I did it with my students last week. Who are you talking to? I mean, you know it from your work. I'm a 45-year-old CTO. I'm scared. I'm super scared. I trust you with my 25 million digital transformation project, biggest project ever in my life. If you fail, I fail, my life falls apart. No pressure, but. So you have to instill as much trust and confidence in me as possible. So again, go back, try a little bit smiling. It sounds a little bit weird, but we are still selling. So one was, our inside sales team has to qualify leads based on different criteria based on the country. What do you recommend?
So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action-based screen flow on the lead record.
Okay, so my immediate feedback would be a good job. I would say it's like 60 to 80%. Maybe we come back to the group. Anybody has a guess what I'm missing?
I guess by country, criteria is missing.
Right.
Yes, the country. So can you, Mohit, try again? Because you actually, I think you know what to do, but.
Yeah. So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action-based screen flow on the lead record, and the country criteria will be stored in a custom metadata.
Yes, you still. This is the technical answer, but you don't answer me from a user point of view. In order to qualify leads, I recommend using a screen flow which shows different fields based on the country of the customer.
Okay. So visualizing.
Yeah, we talk most of the times from a user perspective.
Okay.
Okay, try. Can you? But you can say it in your own words. Can you try again?
Yeah. So in order to qualify leads, I recommend ScreenFlow, having fields based upon a custom metadata to display different criteria based on country.
Okay. How does ScreenFlow? How does it differentiate? How does this work with custom metadata in ScreenFlows?
Okay, so the ScreenFlow is able to query the custom metadata, and based upon the country stored on the lead record, it will be able to pull up the required criteria or thresholds.
So this is again, I'm not so familiar with the newest version of ScreenFlow. So can I dynamically show fields like in Lightning Web Components based on the custom metadata?
Yes, so in the custom metadata, we can query. So in the custom metadata, if there is a country-wise record stored, so based upon the country, I should be able to query that record and display the relevant attributes on the ScreenFlow. Yes, you can do that.
You can do that? Okay. Yeah. Nevertheless, it's unnecessary complex. You don't need that. You just, I also am a huge fan of custom metadata, but it's absolutely not necessary here. Because worst case scenario, we have 20 different screens. Why should I have another layer of complexity using the custom metadata?
Okay. My only consideration there was that there would be many countries, so we'll have to replicate different fields on different screens. Then we'll have country-specific screens.
But even if we have 50%, even if we have 50% of all countries in the world, we have still only 25.
Okay.
So, can you try again?
Okay. All right. So in order to display the country-specific fields, I recommend to create different screens for country-specific criteria.
Nice. In order to qualify leads, I recommend using a ScreenFlow, which displays the required fields per country. Keep it as simple as possible while you show that you didn't miss the per country part. As Raj said, it's really nice. Avoid search traps. Think like an admin. Keep it as simple as possible. So even that simple requirement, which it's a basic requirement, can become a trap for you. So I actually have to check out afterwards how the ScreenFlows work with custom metadata and how you can dynamically display it. I'm curious to learn. Nevertheless, so let's try again, Mohit.
All right. So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action-based ScreenFlow, which will display the country-specific fields per country.
Yeah. So try again with the perfect finish, with the landing.
All right. So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a quick action-based ScreenFlow, which will have different screens per country.
Perfect. This is what I would even cut out the quick action.
Okay, just ScreenFlow.
Just ScreenFlow. So maybe it's a quick action, maybe it's directly on the page, embedded.
Yeah.
As little as possible to. Okay, can you try again?
So in order to qualify leads, I recommend a ScreenFlow, which will display fields per country.
Perfect. Now we can actually go up to 3. What has been your assumptions?
So my assumption, so my assumption is that there are many fields which are common across the country, and for variations, we'll create a separate screen per country.
I can't follow you there.
Okay. So my assumption there is that there is no intelligence or historical based, historical. So we don't have to really predict the lead qualification score based upon historical data, and it will be just based upon what the user will user inputs.
I can tell you my personal feeling. Not that it's wrong what you say. We have to basically, the assumption always kind of justifies our decision against the alternatives. The alternative would be either fields directly on the lead itself, which also would work. You know what I mean? You
mean on the page layout, right?
Yes, on the page layout. We have done that many times. Or the other way around, creating a Lightning Web component. These are the two extremes.
Right. Okay, but for the qualification as well, there could be Einstein lead scoring as well, but we are not bringing in here because we don't really want that intelligence logic in the scenario. So my assumption was based upon that.
This is good. This is good. I would say this. We can also ask the group here. What do you think if you hear the word lead qualification? That our salespeople have to qualify leads. Can they do that based on Einstein lead prediction? It involves the users. I already guided you towards so this is why all the words are important. This guides you towards the user. So in order to qualify leads from the based on country, I recommend using a screen flow. My assumption was that we have multiple different screens and want to guide the user through this process. This is why I chose the screen flow instead of fields.
Okay.
While it is, I don't act. While at the same time, it's not complex enough to call for a Lightning Web Component. You know, it's.
Got it.
Do you want to try again?
Yeah. All right. So in order to qualify lead, I recommend a screen flow, which will display fields per country. My assumption here is that we need to guide the sales rep to via different screens, and the screen flow is optimal for that. Hence, I didn't consider the page layout or a Lightning Web Component.
Nice, perfect. And now the last one, this was 4. Now the justification why you actually went for screen flows instead of Lightning Web Component, just for a practice. Why do you do that?
Okay, so considering ScreenFlow is a point-and-click tool, and it's easy to build and deploy compared to a Lightning Web Component where custom code would be required.
Nice. You already said the right content. Just phrase it a little bit different. What do I as a CTO care about?
Okay. CTO cares about less tech debt and okay, so
money, mostly money.
Money. Yeah.
I'm simple. Yeah, like you say, like less scary. It's, you know, less can and more money, faster.
Right. So considering screen flows are quick to build and faster to deploy compared to Lightning Web Components, which are expensive to maintain and deploy.
Nice, perfect. Now, just for a practice, can you use a few cool words around that? What do screen flows have? Over Lightning Web Component, CTO words?
CTO word, okay. Point and click, drag and drop functionality. No?
No. This is techie words.
Okay, business. Screen flow. So it's what is over the Lightning Web Components, mostly technical, no code required. Is that business? No.
No, it's not. Total cost of ownership.
Okay, TCO.
And time to market.
Okay.
It's the same. You already said it, the technical part, why we have to. I just want to make you, it's not that you have to change your way of saying, I just want to be aware that you can talk this way as well.
Less TCO and faster time to market.
Yes.
Okay, so are the judges expecting? Sorry, Johann, go ahead.
No, I want to bring you into this mindset.
Got it.
We don't care about code over clicks, and I think this is better or this is better. We care about time to market, total cost of ownership. Can it satisfy the requirements?
Got it.
Does it make us more money? The tech is just a tool to achieve these goals. This is what I want to show here, that we are in a business environment.
Right. And are the judges looking for business justification there or technical?
I don't know. I'm not a judge and I only have been in front of the review board. I can tell you that the people I know who went for the board, and maybe we have other people here who have experience or have been for the board or passed, I don't actually know, that business justification is almost never wrong, as long as you can back it up with a technical justification if needed.
Okay.
So you can even combine it. In order to qualify leads on the website, I recommend using screen flows, screen flows which display fields based on the country. My assumption was that we have to guide the user through the multi-step qualification process. I considered using Lightning Web Component to have a highly tailored user interface, but ScreenFlows have a faster time to market and a lower total cost of ownership since they're out of the box functionality and can be maintained by admins.
Okay.
It was a very long answer. You don't have to always do it, but be able to. I personally, maybe it's my business background, I would at the end always justify it with business. I don't like technology is for me just a tool to make achieve my goals.
All right. So, okay. So always try to justify using business terms if possible, right?
At least in your head, always judge your solution by business terms. Also, okay. What's not a good justification? Let's put it. I had bad experience.
Sorry,
I had a bad experience in the past is not a good justification. I just give you a lot of bad justifications now. I had bad experience in the past, from my experience. This is bad justifications because your experience, might be tilted. It's complex. It's also not a good justification. Because yes, we find it maybe annoying to program 15 Lightning Web Components or, you know what I mean? But yeah. If it's the best solution with the best value for the effort, then we go for it. So,
so this is user experience is also part of the business justification, right? In a way, or
absolutely. But you have to balance it. As I would say for everything, this is again everything which is customer facing. User experience is extremely important. Everything that's internally, we have to have a balancing act between total cost of ownership, time to market, and user experience.
Got it. So it depends on the actor who will be accessing that functionality, external versus internal.
Yes. But is this something again? This is, but also mine. I'm not a CTA judge, so I am curious about what the others think in the group, and Mohit, what you think from your experience.
Yeah, I think I agree with you because internal users, we still have the flexibility to train them when we'll roll out the solution. And and if we can build some solutions, which probably they would need some time to get trained, but still it will give us faster time to market and overall low TCO. But for customers, we cannot control. Their experience has to be super fast, super quick. So for them, user experience always wins over the faster time to market, I guess.
Nice. Okay. So this is something for a group. This could be an exercise for all of you. Most of you are techies. Try to find business justification just as an exercise to get into the habit of it. And especially if you want to become promoted to a manager or director at some point, there's no way around talking business. Good. Let's, Mohit, you know what I mean, or?
Yeah, no, it's just that the reason why I was laughing is that one of the reasons why most of us are doing CTA is that we don't want to become managers, because, yeah.
But we will interact with managers.
Yeah.
We have to understand their way of thinking.
Their way of thinking, yeah. I mean, for them, business, how the business operates, basically, and how this adds value. Agree, yeah.
I see myself as a CTA or architect almost as a salesperson. I have to sell my solution. You know what I mean? I have to sell my ideas. I can't tell nobody what to do. Yeah, know your enemy. They are not our enemies, kind of. They control the budget. But yes, know your enemy. And we have to sell our solution. We have to sell our idea, our vision of the future. And there is no way around justifying that with money. Good. One more time. Mohit, now you can do it. Perfect. Mohit, we would like to qualify leads with our internal sales team based on but we have different requirements for qualification based on the country.
Okay, so in order to qualify lead, I recommend a screen flow with different screens showing fields per country. My assumption here is that the sales rep will have guided flow for multi-step screens for entering the lead, so entering the lead data. So hence, I didn't opt for a custom web component. Again, also my consideration here is that screen flow will provide will result in overall low TCO and faster time to market compared to Lightning Web Component, which is a custom solution and expensive to maintain.
Perfect. It was a pretty long answer. You wouldn't give it usually, but just as to be able to. We got that that is not true by Priya in the chat. I'm curious, what is not true? maybe Priya can chat or say, and because I'm curious, what's the feedback there? Nevertheless, we can continue now. We do it the same exercise now, just practice up and down. Give me the same answer with 2.
With the tool? Okay.
With 2. In order to, I recommend give 2.
Okay.
2 fingers.
So in order to qualify lead, I recommend a screen flow, which will have country-based, which will display country-specific fields on screens. My assumption here is that
tool. In
Just
order
two?
to, I recommend just 2. Let's just practice to be able to switch easily. Just again, try 2.
So in order to qualify lead, I recommend a screen flow, which will display fields per country.
Perfect. Now let's do the 3.
My assumption, okay, from the start or from the assumption?
From the start.
Okay. In order to qualify lead, my recommendation, I would recommend a screen-based flow, which will display a field per country. My assumption here is that the sales rep would need a guided flow to enter the data, and hence I am recommending screen flow over a Lightning Web Component.
You cut it. Try it again. 3.
All right. So
sorry for being so strict, but it makes
no. I need to get into the hang of this, so it's totally fine, Johann. So in order to qualify lead, I recommend screen-based flow, which will display fields per country. My assumption here is that sales rep need a guided flow to enter the data for lead qualification.
Perfect. Even for lead qualification, you already said it in the beginning. You just wasted another 3 words.
Sure.
We are micro optimizing here, but you're already so good. So you know what I mean. You should, okay, again, in order, this time 2.
Tool. In order to qualify lead, I recommend screen-based flow, which will display fields per country.
Perfect. Now 3.
In order to qualify lead, I recommend screen-based flow, which will display field per country, assuming the sales rep needs a guided flow to enter the data for.
Perfect.
The data. Yeah.
Enter it. Nice. One more time with the 3.
In order to qualify lead, I recommend screen flow, which will display fields per country. My assumption here is that sales rep would need a guided flow to enter the data.
Perfect. Nice. Okay. Now we go to the next one. This one is also, what we just did is in almost every single scenario. If you look back in all the mock scenarios, this is in almost each of our projects. So polishing these kind of, let's call it standard requirements, is really valuable, because it's a very high chance that you actually get it in your Revit board. I don't know the scenarios, but just from a likelihood.
Qualification is quite common. In every
exactly.
scenario. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is also quite common. We want to import lead data, but we are a little bit worried from our existing CRM systems. But we are a little bit worried about the lead quality data, the quality of the data. What do you recommend?
Is it about, okay, so like I don't have a choice to ask this question during the scenario, but just for your context, is it about migration or is it about entering the data into the system? It's my assumption. Okay. All right. So in order to ensure that there are no duplicates in the system, I would recommend to enable lead, duplicate, and matching rules so that duplicates are identified on the entry into the system.
Nice. What was your assumption?
So my assumption here is that there are duplicate leads which are being entered, and there is a unique criteria which we can use in the matching rule for fuzzy matching. Yes.
This is something I would extend a little bit. We both know that identifying lead duplicates is a really complex question, like not technically and content-wise. So what would you do in a business to actually make sure that the rules work?
So I would, right. So in order to ensure that the criteria for duplicate matching is correct, I would engage data stewards so that we can define the right criteria.
And who else? Always, who is our best friend? Okay, we have a couple of best friends, but another best friend?
Data stewards, who else?
Business stakeholders.
Oh, business. Oh, yeah, business stakeholders.
It's yeah, really great. This is
yeah.
I have done this exercise a couple of times with my students in the last week. You're not alone in the project. Make sure you utilize the whole company.
Yeah.
So what do you actually do with data steward and the business stakeholder now?
So they will help me in defining the right criteria for matching the duplicate leads.
Nice. Good. So now, but let's assume I just, no, I mean different. I meant the migration. Sorry, Mohit. I meant the migration. Let's do the migration.
You meant the migration? Okay. So, right. So since so in order to migrate the lead data into Salesforce, I recommend an ETL, which will extract the data from the source system, and it will have scripts to deduplicate, enrich, and transform the data and migrate into Salesforce. I'm assuming that the matching rules will be configured at ETL level and will engage data steward and business SMEs.
Nice. Again, you didn't miss the data steward and the business. Yes.
That was job. The tip from the last session, Johann. So thanks to you.
Nice.
Always data steward in the
Yes, I'm super proud of you. Now we did we did this one more time just to make sure that it's absolutely polished.
Okay, so in order to migrate the data from the source system, I recommend an ETL tool such as Informatica, which will extract the data and dedupe, enrich, and transform the data at staging layer, and will engage data stewards to ensure that the data quality rules are correct. And then we will load the data into Salesforce platform.
Nice. Try to give the absolute minimum answer now, the shortest way to possible. What would you leave out?
Okay, so in order to okay, so in order to, of course, is our tool. So in order to load the data into Salesforce, I will recommend a strong.
Can I stop you here? My question was about how to ensure the lead quality of the quality of the data, not to load the data. So this was my focus.
Okay. So in order to ensure that my lead, the quality of my lead record is correct or good, I would recommend to run the dedupe and matching rule at the staging layer while extracting the data from the source system. And I would also engage data stewards and business stakeholders to ensure that the matching rules are correct.
Mm-hmm. Really good. I would try it like one more time from my side. I don't say it's just different. In order to ensure high quality lead data in our Salesforce system, I recommend cleaning, standardizing, and deduplicating the data off platform together with the data steward and the business stakeholders. Again, another one of these cool words, off platform.
Off platform. Okay.
Or prior to load, or but off platform already, because this already also tells you something. Oh, I have to think about the security of off platform.
Yeah.
Off platform. Let's continue now. This is really good. I have a fun requirement for you. This is really fun. We want to allow our customers to sign up for events on our website. Event registrations have to be will be followed up by our internal sales team from within Salesforce. What do you recommend?
Okay. So in order to provide capability to our customers to book events, I recommend Lightning Scheduler based inbound flow, which can be used to book the events and which can be followed up by our internal users later.
Okay, what is the capabilities of Lightning Scheduler? So this is again here. There's no right and wrong. I don't say that your answer is wrong. But I am actually in a discussion with the CTA right now about this. But just to be able to see the other side as well. So what's the capability of Lightning Scheduler?
So the capability of the Lightning Scheduler is to provide appointment booking features for both customers as well as internal users.
It is to book an appointment with the right sales agent at the right location. It's quite a complex solution.
Okay, so in that case, then we can go for a simple custom object, yeah, like booking object. In order to enable our customers to book the events, I would recommend a customer community portal wherein they will log in and book the event using the quick action on the screen.
Okay, you made a couple of assumptions, and which made your solution way more complex. I don't say that the Lightning scheduler is not correct here, but and your solution. You made the assumption that the users have to log in, which I didn't ask for, and I specifically asked for the website.
Okay, all right. So in order to enable the users or to book the event, or the public to book the event, I recommend to
via the website. Repeat that part because it's an important part.
Yeah. So in order to enable our public users to book the event on my website, I recommend to create a custom component on the website, which will enable them to book the event, and then that event will be captured in Salesforce via API.
Okay. Now we want to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more meat. My theory, again, I'm not a CTA judge, that everything that's tied to integrations has to have one more level detail just by default.
Sure.
Because it's there. I think I discussed it with Charlie last. Everywhere where you have boundaries, which are APIs, stuff goes wrong. So in order to allow our leads, our customers, use the same words. Don't say public users, say customer, to register for events via the website. I recommend to surface the events on our website via remote call-in via the ESP from Salesforce. First step, we have to actually show the events.
Show them, yeah.
And the customer can register on and upon registration for an event. The event registration is sent to Salesforce via remote call-in via the ESP again, which creates a record in the junction object event registration.
Yeah,
I personally would, for everything that's tied to integration, I would go as detailed as possible. Don't leave anything open.
Sure.
I don't know what about the others here in the group. I would like to also get the feedback of people who have been for the board or who are CTAs. It's just we want to.
Right.
The junction object is between the event itself and the contact.
Customer. Yeah. So then we are also assuming that it will be, it won't be booked in the unauthenticated context, right? If we are saying it's a junction object.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, so then we need to identify our customer as well.
Yeah, we can. How can we identify the customer? How can we identify them without logging in?
So by having them input some customer ID, some unique external ID field.
For example, email address.
Email address, yeah. That is a unique external ID. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a good one. Okay. So I just get the feedback that yes, that we should. Nice. We just got the feedback, yes, that we should go. Not by Rush, by Priya, that we should be with every integration end to end. So the integration sentence is always the longest. Can you try again?
Yes. So in order to enable our customers to book events on the website, I recommend to create a custom component on the website, I recommend to create a custom component which will surface the events from Salesforce to the website via REST API, and then
say the pattern. Never miss the pattern. Always say the pattern.
Via request and reply,
and remote call in.
Yes, remote call-in. Remote call-in, yeah.
Or
it would be remote calling from the website. Yeah, it won't be RNR. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, or it would be request and a remote call-in, request and reply. They are together. The pattern.
They are together. But from Salesforce perspective, it will be RCI, right? Remote call-in.
From the website to Salesforce, it's remote call-in. From Salesforce to the website, it's remote process invocation.
Yeah, RCI.
Okay. RPI, yeah, remote. Yeah, okay.
I'm just using keyword to, because
yeah,
I want
you can't. You just lost me. I'm a judge. I just didn't give you the.
No, not for explaining to the judges, but when I'm annotating the scenario,
Yeah,
I
yeah. The RPI or RESB or REST. Okay, so what else could you do with the events? Just let's stay with the details. What else could you do with the events in the website? Because now the question comes from a judge. Hey, do you make a call in every time the website is reloaded?
So in order to in order to mitigate that and save our API calls, I would recommend to implement caching at ESB layer so that that every time the website is loaded, we don't have to make a new call.
Okay, what is your assumption by allowing caching, by enabling caching?
Yes. So my assumption there is that new events are not created very frequently. So they are created every day per day, and then they can be cached at the ESP layer in the very first call.
Nice. Another alternative. As I personally am a huge fan of caching. Next thing you could do instead of caching. Alternative.
Next. So I can store the events also if there is a content management system on the website, so that we can persist the data. Yeah.
How do the events come into the website?
So they will come via API from Salesforce. So we'll fire.
Say the sentence, the whole sentence.
Okay. So in order to save the events on the website, I'll recommend a remote process invocation, remote calling to via REST API to Salesforce, which will then respond with events in the real time, and then the ESB will save that record in the website.
Nice, but yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so now we surface the events. Now continue the sentence. How to register?
Okay. All right. So in order to register for the events, the user will select the particular event, and once the user will
customer, it's a customer. It's
not
customer, a user.
Yeah. So in order to book the events, the customer will enter the required information and save the data, which will then also invoke a remote process invocation, remote calling via REST API to Salesforce. And in the Salesforce, we'll create capture that data in a junction object, event registration, which will be a junction between event and the customer account record.
Nice. Just for the sake of it, is it request and reply or fire and forget?
So if it depends, but I think from my perspective, it would be.
It doesn't depend.
So, yeah, no, it doesn't depend. But in this case, it will be real time.
Why? No, not real time. What's a request and reply or fire and forget? It's not. Is it? What is it?
Yeah, so request and reply is typically when we initiate a request and we want to get the immediate response in single thread, synchronous. However, fire and forget is where one thread is used for sending the data. However, there is no response expected in the same thread.
Okay, this is the technical explanation, but from a user point of view, why do I need what?
Okay, so from the user perspective, if we are expecting a confirmation of the event registration, then I would go for a request and reply. Otherwise, I will just go for fire and forget.
So if my assumption is the user has to be notified about the successful registration immediately, therefore I suggest a request and reply pattern.
Yeah.
This is, think from a user point of view. It's always about the user.
Got it.
Okay, so every time you talk about integration, it has to be the full sentence. So you do the website makes a remote call in via the REST API, via request and reply pattern, via the ESB into Salesforce to create a junction object event registration, and if needed, then creates a new contact record using the email ID as an external identifier. Can you try?
Yes.
Thanks for thank Piotr for mentioning the customer creation. I completely forgot about that. So Mohit, try.
All right. From the beginning or from the event?
Yes.
From the beginning?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in order to enable our customers to book events on the website, I recommend I recommend to surface the events via remote process invocation, remote calling pattern via ESP, via REST API to Salesforce, and then those events will be.
You forgot the request and reply part. It's a request and reply pattern. You always say remote call-in, request and reply, REST. You always say all three. Yes, it's a little bit redundant, but you know what I mean. We don't want to have an integration retake.
All right. Okay. All right. So in order to enable our customers to book events on the website, I recommend to surface those events via remote process invocation, request and reply, remote call-in via REST API, via ESB to Salesforce, and then surface the data or save the data on the website. Once the events are visible to the customer can select one of the events and then save the data, which would invoke another API call via a remote process invocation,
remote call-in.
Via remote call-in pattern via REST API to Salesforce.
Are fire and forget or request and reply?
Request and reply.
Okay, so Salesforce.
Via remote call-in, request and reply to Salesforce, and in Salesforce, it will be captured as an event.
Why did you bypass the ESB?
Okay. I'm just being a little confused, Johann, if I may ask. So from my perspective, the remote call-in is when you're using the external system to make a standard REST or SOAP call or Apex REST service call to Salesforce, right? But request and reply from a Salesforce perspective would be when we will initiate the request from Salesforce, like via Apex callout or enhanced external service. But if an external system is initiating that, wouldn't it be always remote call-in or?
Yeah, if an external system, it's always a remote call and a request and reply is not the same. A remote call, as a remote process invocation can be either request and reply or fire and forget.
Yes.
And yes, you know what I mean. And the same way the other way around.
Right, but isn't there a separate third pattern, which is RCI, just remote call-in, which is the inbound call to Salesforce?
You are right. Yeah, this is what remote call-in. And you mean, and the remote call-in does not have a request and reply pattern?
No, because it's anyways you're calling that API, and it's always synchronous.
But you can do it. No, it's not always synchronous. You can also do it via platform event.
Yeah, that will be my fire and remote call-in async pattern. Yes, in that way. But if you're using standard REST or SOAP API, it's always going to be remote call-in. There is no request and reply.
To create a platform event, you actually call also the REST API.
Yes, I do that. But again, if you're just using the API, then it will be just remote call-in. I mean, that's my understanding, but I'm not sure if I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I am also not, just go with what feels right for you. I would add, if you can't justify the other way, then just stick with it. Okay, good.
Sure.
But I would differentiate if it's a request and reply pattern or a fire and forget pattern, even if it's a remote call-in.
Okay, so in that case, I would say remote call-in synchronous pattern. Rather than, okay, so you're saying remote call-in, fire and forget, or RNR?
Because the fire and forget and the rest and the request and reply is not so much about which API we use, but about what the user expects and the data flow.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying remote call-in, request and reply, signifying that it will be just the record will be updated and we'll get some response out of it. So that is RNR.
Yes, this is RNR. Without like talking about the technology layer, whatever,
Right.
As I technically, you could even have a fire and forget pattern by using a REST call, just not waiting for the answer, for example.
Right. Yeah. So whenever there is an inbound call, I always say RCI, which is remote call-in, because it's internal. But I think what you're saying is also add what is the context in which the record is being created, right? Whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. For example, it can be the platform event or can expect a response as well. So
it makes a difference from a user perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Okay, but I'm not, again, I'm just one. There's so many other smart people here in the room. Maybe somebody else has an opinion on that. It's definitely not my strongest topic, integration, but let's just try again.
Sure. So in order to enable the customers to book events on the website, I recommend to surface those events from Salesforce via making a REST API call using remote process invocation, remote call-in with a request and reply, which will bring the events via ESB, which will bring the events and then save that on the website. Then the user will be able to select the event and enter the relevant data and save the record, which will initiate another API call, REST API call via ESB using remote process invocation,
Remote call-in.
REST request and reply pattern. It will save the record as an event registration junction object between event object and the customer account, and then it will return the event registration acknowledgement number to the customer.
Perfect. Amazing. This is, I mean, this is, okay. I would say that we have a lot of comments here. Don't overthink these integration patterns with request and reply so much from a technical point of view. I know technically you can have you do a request and reply pattern to the ESP, but then the ESP creates a platform event and sends it to Salesforce. Is it, you know what I mean? Is it then a request and reply pattern?
No, so that would be RNR plus RCI.
But is it a request and reply? From a user point of view, not.
No, so if it's a platform event which is published, then it will be fire and forget plus remote call-in, because you will be publishing the event, ESP will subscribe to it, get the ID, then do a remote call-in to get the line item details, and then send it to the external system.
Yeah. And even if the ESP then makes the next call via request and reply pattern to the ERP, it still stays from a context point of view. Okay, so let's try again one more time, Mohit.
Okay. So in order to enable our customers to book events on the website, I recommend to surface those events from Salesforce via REST API using ESB via remote process invocation, remote call-in with request and reply pattern, and ESP will query the data from Salesforce and save those records, those events on the website. User will be able to select the events and book the, enter the required data. And then I again recommend to use ESB and Salesforce REST API using remote process invocation, remote call-in with the request and reply pattern to create the event registration record in Salesforce and return the event acknowledgement number to the customer. Nice. I probably will cut down that object creation thing in case the judges have a follow-up. I'll then explain, just to shorten the answer, Johann, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that the all end-to-end. And sure. Now there's two more things we have to think about. One more thing, actually. What did you just introduce into your project?
So I introduced a new integration.
And what else did you introduce?
What else did I introduce?
Think from your experience. Now trust your gut feeling. What is now, what happened if you have this website project now?
Yeah, so I also introduced governance overhead as well, and to plan for the web development part.
You introduced a risk. I'm scared now.
Yeah.
Website projects always go bad.
True.
So what do you can follow up that now? Actually, this would be perfect. That you actually identify the risk. It's a dependency risk because you're suddenly dependent from a different team.
Yeah.
And how you mitigate that. Can you do that now, please?
Yes. So, okay. So I'll start from the risk now, Johann.
Now just do the risk part now. Yeah, start from the risk. Yes.
All right. However, this integration would also introduce a new risk in the program, wherein I'll have to engage the web development team and ensure that my timelines are still met from a program perspective. And in order to mitigate that, I'll ensure that the web development team is part of my COE governance, and they are aligned with the release timelines and the priority of the changes.
Okay, nice. Slightly a little bit more, I would personally always add what type of risk it is. Like it's a dependency risk.
Dependency. Okay. So what I was always thinking, Johann, is a technical and a program risk, or are there other types as well? So normally
and I find it maybe this is the business side. I'm a dependency risk and a delivery risk.
Delivery and dependency. Okay.
Delivery is something, which might take longer than expected, and dependencies I'm dependent. In order to mitigate the dependency risk, we introduced using the needing the website team for this adoption. I recommend using working together with the project manager and the program architect. Furthermore, I would include the website team into the center of excellence.
Right.
This is something I learned from also last week from my student. So make sure that you also include these people into center of excellence.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well done. How do you feel now?
Just hoping that the real CTA reviewer judges would be as nice as you, Johann, so that I'm not stressed at all.
Yeah. They are kind of, I don't know. I have no idea. I can just tell from my experience, I told a few times before, I have no recollection of my CTA experience. It's completely black. And a couple of months ago, a person wrote me on LinkedIn and we chatted a little bit. And at some point, the person said, "Yeah, I was your judge." And I was like, I have no idea. It's just all blackout. It's don't forget the third-party agency needs Sam. Nice, of course, Sam again. With the customer facing, of course, customer facing. So maybe we have Sam in the call again. Maybe you can unmute yourself and also ask Mohit a few questions, because Mohit is feeling too comfortable right now. Sam, you want to have some fun?
Yeah, let me see. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But I'll tell you what. Let me have a think, and I'll come back. I'll come back. So
Okay.
I haven't got one off the top of my head, but
I have one if you want like to. Okay.
Sure.
Mohit, you recommend using a custom object for the events? Just, making. I have something for you. Last exercise. This is a fun one. Before we get Sam, show me the last data model you drew on one of your mock exams. Just any data model.
Sure.
Actually, don't show it to me. Just what scenario is it?
So the last one I did was, there are many I did. What was the last week? Last one was PERC. Sorry, one from the Tamim's book. I think packed lightning utilities or so.
Maybe do you have universal safety or laptop to schools, or one of the more popular ones everybody knows? Do you have one of these data models?
Yes, I do have universal safety, which I saw.
It's still my favorite one.
Yeah, that's my favorite scenario now as well.
Okay, so you share your screen, but I look away. Sam also looks away. We don't look at you share the screen for the others, and you walk us through your data model, and don't even share the screen. You walk us through your data model. You explain it to us, but we don't see the screen. Why I'm saying it is, one of the judges might take notes while you explain the data model. It should stand alone on your words.
Okay.
Okay, so let's try. Explain. And Mohit and Sam and I jump in as soon as we don't understand something.
All right, let me refresh my memory. Just 10 seconds. So what did I do? Okay. Commercials. All right. So let's look at the data model. So this is primarily a B2B business model. So I would like you to walk you through from the top left of my data model. So the customer will express an interest in installing the safety devices. So we'll capture that interest as a lead in the system, which will be owned by the support rep. And considering the principle of least privilege, the OWD will be private. The lead will be qualified by the support rep, and then it will be converted into an account contact, wherein we'll map the customer as a business account with the record type business customer. It will be owned by the system specialist, and the customer employees will be mapped as contact, which will be controlled by parent. Also, the OWD of the account will be private due to certain visibility and sharing requirements. And also, along with that, we'll also capture opportunity, which will actually signify the installation opportunity for the company. This will be also owned by the system specialist with private OWD. Now, there will be a visit plan to the customer, which
how will you ensure that you don't have duplicates?
Sorry, come again, Sam?
How will you ensure that you? Sorry, is that better?
Yeah.
How will you ensure that you don't have duplicate customers?
They're not duplicate customers, so I will enable duplicate standard account, contact, and lead duplicate and matching rules in the system with the settings block for duplicate creation, so that it alerts the user. All right, so once the opportunity is created, and there will be an event also, which will be tagged to that opportunity, also owned by the system specialist, for visit to the site of the customer where the devices needs to be installed. The system specialist will visit the site. Yeah.
Events, what's the volume?
Events, what's the volume? It would be, it's not really clear from the scenario. Let me check.
I don't care. I'm a CTO. I'm scared.
Okay.
Sam knows what I mean. Or the volumes have to be. You either have to assume something, you have to make an educated guess. What does everybody in the chat think about volume of an event object? It's high volume, almost always, just by default.
Okay.
You can do some educated guess, but I would do, I don't know about Sam, but there's a couple of objects I will always just assume they're high volume and then still do the calculation if possible, but in doubt they are high volume. Events, tasks, invoice line, everything that's line items, invoice line items, order line items, opportunity line items, contract line items, everything that's a junction object.
It's always LDV. Mostly.
Not always, but at least I would have a close eye on that and make it sure that they do the calculations. Sam, how do you see that?
Yeah, no, exactly the same. Mostly junction object class, depending on volume that you anticipate, tends to have some growth elements to it as well over time. But yeah, campaign members are the only other one I would add to that, but similar concept, similar pattern, junction object.
Good point. Yeah. Missed the campaign object. Yeah. Okay. So Mohit, just for a great job with storytelling. I have to say, wouldn't do anything better. I would I would just say it then right at the beginning. I follow a concept of least privilege. Therefore, all my objects are by default private unless stated otherwise. I would immediately call out the volumes, especially for the hot objects, account and contact. Because I hope you did the calculations.
Yes, LDV.
Yes, so you didn't mention that. I would immediately call it out because the LDV, we always think of LDV mitigation as something technical, but it's actually something business has to agree with. Because why? So, can you walk me through what's your LDV strategies for the account and contact?
Yes. So for account and contact, the volume was in the range of yeah. So I think in this case, we don't have account and contact as the LDV actually, because they're 100K customers with 2 locations. So I've mapped account and contact as customers. So anything below 5 million, Johann, I don't consider that as an LDV.
I personally would, starting with 1 million to flag it as an LDV. I mean, it's a weird range, but just to be sure on the sure side, because you might have some growth. I agree with you that 100,000 is not LDV. But what about the contacts?
Yes. So contact, it's not really mentioned how many employees will be there, but assuming that there are 2, 3, or 5 employees, let's say, then it can be still 500K, which is still below the LDV mark.
Okay. What would you do if it would be let's say 2 million?
Okay.
Contact is 1.1 million. I would even with 1.1 million, I would start to mitigate that. Sam, what do you think? Just to make sure.
I probably wouldn't. I would call out that, again, the impacts of growth over time. So if they've given any indication of the percentage growth, so if they said they're looking to double their business, you're then into 2.2 million. If that's an average, then it may be that at the far extreme, you may be sort of encroaching on the borderline of LDV consideration. So yeah, so I would always factor in the growth before you start talking about, considering LDV.
And I would always call out the time frame. So so is the calculation you did for 2 years or for 5 years?
Right.
Yeah, agree with that.
What is the calculate? What is your time frame? I always go by 5, just by default.
Yeah, same here for me. 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year, 3 different time frames. But yeah, at least 5 years, since we are building a long-term solution. Yeah.
So Mohit, let's stick with this. So again, you start with the story, then you stumble across the contact, and you notice, let's say there is an LDV at 1.5 million. Let's just do it. Okay. Now do the business storytelling around the LDV mitigation, please.
Okay. So contact is so the volume of the contact is 1.5 million. So based upon the projected growth of 10% per year, considering 3 years of data volume, it would be roughly around 3.5 million. And then for 5 years, it would be more than 5 million, which definitely qualifies for an LDV mitigation. And in order to mitigate that, I will follow 2 approaches: a short-term mitigation plan and long-term. For my short-term strategy, considering that there are reporting requirements on account, I would place a custom index on the region field, which is captured on the contact, so that my queries are selective. And in order to drive the performance of list views, I will recommend a skinny table, considering that that's a read-only, that's used for read-only purpose. My long-term strategy, of course, we will not be able to archive the active contacts from the system because they are master data. But as I'll propose a governance process that once the account is inactive, as per the governance process, they can be removed from the system after a certain duration based upon the business agreements.
Mm-hmm. This was already pretty good. Either Sam or I will just try the short version of it. In order to mitigate the large data volume risk on the contact, which I project to be about 1.5 million in 5 years, I recommend to use to implement skinny tables to optimize read operations. I will identify necessary custom indexes with business stakeholders early in the project, because they have to request it by Salesforce support in order, again, to make all my queries, reports, and list views selective. And lastly, I will have an aggressive archiving strategy where long-term storing will be done off-platform.
That was the only comment I was going to have, is that Mohit, you could have condensed that down to probably about 4 or 5 sentences max.
Yeah, and make sure this is another sentence. You need this sentence like 5 times. Guaranteed during the review board, make sure you polish that sentence. Sure. Or Sam, I guess you spent days on this sentences.
A variation of it, yeah. In fact, I had a sort of a variation for almost each object sort of thing, that I anticipated having an LDV impact. So if it was, if it was account to contact, then it was one sort of format of the sentence. If it was, I don't know, opportunities or line items, orders and line items, or work orders and line items, there was another format of the sentence, and so on. So you can apply a pattern approach to the sort of language and the statements.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things, if you practice them well, you go into the ready report with a lot more confidence, because you already know that you covered one of the hardest parts. The question is here, do we really need skinny tables? I would give that, Mohit, you recommend skinny tables. What's your justification around using skinny tables?
So I would recommend skinny tables in case we need to optimize the read operations, such as list views or reports. Skinny table does have an overhead on the right, so I would recommend them only if there is a valid use case of reporting.
You used the bad word a couple of times now.
In case, right?
Yes, and they would. I'm confused. I'm scared. What should we do now? Sam, maybe their feedback there. I try to avoid these words like would, use, could, as much as possible. What's your thought there?
Absolutely, absolutely. In case basically tells the judges that you are throwing something conceptual out there rather than concretely saying, and here's an example, I want to use skinny tables because we need to report on this for this purpose.
Do you want to justify skinny tables, Sam? Do you want to have?
Yeah, I could say I can't remember the scenario, unfortunately, but I'll make up a requirement, for example. So I would use skinny tables in the event that here we have a requirement to query on this object using our LWC and an Apex controller. So I would want to optimize the performance of that read operation to show the data on the screen.
Nice. Which objects are skinny tables supported, Mohit?
So account, contact, lead, case, opportunity, and custom objects. Nice.
Good one. So can you walk me through the custom indexes and how you use custom indexes?
Yes, so the custom indexes are required if there are any custom fields, if there are custom fields on which we need to filter in the reports or query those in a custom LWC. For that, we will have to contact Salesforce support. However, there is a way to also enable custom indexes by marking them as external ID, considering they are text-based fields.
The last one, I know, we all have done it. It's a hacky solution. We don't do hacky solutions.
Okay, so don't mention that.
I would say. Salesforce puts a limitation on SOQL queries, reports, and list views on objects with large data volumes. In order to still be able to filter on them, we have to filter on indexed fields, and many standard fields are already indexed, like record type and ID fields. On top of that, we can request custom index fields from the Salesforce support on certain field types. What field types, Mohit?
So it would be text, date, not date time, and mostly text, date, number. Those are the fields which we can. Checkboxes are not allowed for custom indexes. Pick list also we can index. Yes, formula as well, as long as they are non-deterministic.
As long as they're deterministic.
Oh, sorry, deterministic. The other way. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Nice one. So just for fun's sake, do you know the limits exactly when we need selective queries and when an index is considered and when not?
Oh, yes. Why not? So
I knew it. I would.
Yeah. So for standard indexes, it would be 30% of the first million and 15% of the rest. Total would be 1 million record, which we can, query via standard index. For custom, it would be 10% of the first million and 5% of the rest. Total would be 333.333K.
So what happens if we exceed that?
What happens if we exceed it? So of course, in that case, the query would be non-selective and leads to full table scan.
And can you have not selective query in Apex?
Non-selective query in Apex? No, we'll get an error there saying that it's a non-selective query.
Yeah. What happens if you have a non-selective query on a very large data volume in reports in list views?
Reports timeout typically.
List views typically as well.
Oh yeah, reports timeout.
Yeah. So always think about it from the what actually happens. This is kind of how I would actually explain it.
Sure.
This the other way around is again back to Sam. We had the discussion at the beginning. Should you always justify from a business point of view? Sam, what's your thought there?
You have to combine. You can't not explain it from a business point of view. But I would say my personal style is to justify it technically, but then also qualify it with the business impact.
Okay, so both. So actually, we should call the CTA the Certified Business and Technical Architects Salesforce.
Yeah, CBTA.
The B is silent in CTA. Okay, you did really, really well with large data volume. Just for fun's sake, one more time, we have 1.5 million contacts. Mohit?
Okay. So in order to mitigate the large data volume implication, since we have 1.5 million contacts, I recommend
calculated on. You have to say in what time frame you calculate it for.
Yeah, calculated for the next 5 years. I recommend to create custom indexes with the help of Salesforce support on the fields which are used in the report filters and the queries in Apex. Also, I would recommend to enable skinny tables in order to optimize the performance of reports and list views.
And last one?
Yes, for my long-term strategy would also be to archive the context to a data warehouse when then they're no longer required for business requirements or purposes.
Nice. You could just add on, I just did it because I like this so much, is in order business still needs some of these old data, which is stored off platform. I give a Lightning Web component, which allows them to request data on a button click into the system. Yes. Sure. And then I put a tracking onto the button and then I see it's never clicked.
The only thing I would add there is that when you're describing the potential for archiving, give at least some sort of example or indication of the criteria from which.
Yes. Yeah. Something like like you said it before, inactive customers.
Exactly. Yeah. Or customers who you've not received any contact from in the last 2 years or something like that. Just give some indication, because otherwise it at least from my opinion, it feels like half a solution. The one that you're just throwing out there, sort of thing.
Sure.
Good. We have questions around business storytelling in the chat. I think, Mohit, I can only tell from my side, you are ready, you're there, you're really amazing. I have a good feeling there. Make sure you polish the integration patterns. Sure. To make them like your second. I think, Sam, again, you have all the integration sentences prepared, or like 90% of them. It's really long, detailed.
Yep.
I
don't know. Well, maybe I've seen it before. I'm trying to figure out, have I seen it before described by someone else? Maybe, yeah, or something close to what I did. So I actually wrote out the integration the way I said it in a table, so that literally I was reading from left to right and covering each aspect of the integration, almost like a formulaic. It wasn't really formulaic because you add in a little bit of explanation of the logic potentially if it's going through an ESB, or an ETL process. But yeah, I sort of wrote out in the table the way I would say it in a sentence, so that I could literally look at it from left to right, but then still explain it in a sentence that is like a story. Does that make sense?
The table helps you to not miss elements. It's basically like a checklist.
Exactly. That's the only thing it does. Yeah. Yeah. But you still need to explain it in words that tell the story.
I would like to follow up a little bit with the business storytelling. We can try to explain the data model to your partner, a friend. So not technically, completely from a business side. Try to explain the system landscape to a partner, to a friend. I mean, my partner at some point hated me. My partner was really, you have to pass the CTA now because I can't listen to any more OAuth flows. But the same is true for the OAuth flows. You also can explain the OAuth flow from a business point of view.
Oh, yeah. System landscape and data model, I try to, but OAuth flow, I've never thought, Johann, to be honest, that they can be explained in a business terminology as well. Can you give me a quick example, if that helps?
I can't do it from the top of my head. Sam, do you want to try it, or I actually would have to open the OAuth flow because I can't really remember them from the top of my head anymore.
Yeah. So we practiced within our company some deep dive sessions on OAuth, and we actually tried to use analogies like a hotel where you need access to a room. You go to the front desk, they give you a key, but in order to give you a key, they ask you questions about what scopes or what do you need access to, right? Only based on them checking your identity will they actually give you a key, right? And tell you, yeah, this will give you access, this key will give you access to that particular room, that scope, right? And then you take that key and you use it with the room. Yeah. So, you know,
100% agree there. This is the only way I could remember it. I used a similar one with just my flat.
Are we expected to explain this way, Johann? If let's say the judge asked me to, no, right? It's
no,
just for
for memorizing it. So nice. Okay. Any last questions or any feedback? Other than that, I would wrap it up for today. By the way, who haven't heard it yet? Sam released
the only
on
other one I had was
go ahead.
I was just going to say relationship type. When you were going through the data model, I wanted to hear relationship type.
Good point. Completely. Yeah. So you agree there, Sam? You should be able to explain the data model without the judge looking at the screen? Sam, we lost you.
Yes, I completely agree. Sorry, I don't know whether that came through.
So the same for system landscape? Yes, absolutely. I think the integrations become a bit difficult because they're a much lower level, as does the probably the release diagram and potentially even data migration, but the others can be explained, should be understandable without looking at the diagram. Okay, and just I want to give here a shout out to who hasn't listened it yet. Sam has an episode on Talent Hub about his journey, and it's an amazing episode. Who hasn't listened yet? The data type, relationship type, I explain it from a technical point of view, but I also justify it from a business point of view. I personally, again, I can ask Sam here for the feedback. I personally always go for lookup relationship. I never use master detail relationship. First of all, I don't like the word master. I think we shouldn't use that anymore. And second, no, it just introduces unnecessary risk of unnecessary showing data, which shouldn't be exposed while not bringing too much of an upside. What's about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think it's probably in some cases a divisive topic. I agree with the impact that you've described there, and I think that would be a fair justification for not using master details. There are some cases where you sort of have to, and it actually can be used to simplify, but it would be almost like I don't know how else to do this, because it would be super complicated to do it without it, sort of thing, last resort.
A master detail is a last resort solution. It's kind of funny when you start out as an admin, everything is a master detail relationship.
Johann, I have one last question so I have 14 days now. What would be, so what's your recommendation or Sam's recommendation, right? That how to best use these 14 days for my preparation?
Sam, you want to start?
I would say 14 days. Okay, so you've still got time to do probably 1 or 2 mocks, just to sort of keep up the cadence and refine your communication, your presentation, like we're doing today. At a push, I would, you could go to 3, but don't leave it too late in those 14 days. Other than that, I would practice your data models on a daily basis. Practice your OAuth flows and identity flows on a daily basis. That's pretty much it, I would say. Oh yeah, the other thing is, which I've given advice to some other candidates before, is try to think about edge cases and slightly more complex or extreme scenarios or use cases, and think about, okay, if they invalidate my assumption, how might I answer that?
Okay. And to follow up there, I would put a study freeze in place at some, the same as code freeze. So I did it something like maybe 10 days ahead of time. I was not allowed to learn anything new anymore because I will not remember it anyway. I cannot, so I was, if you don't know it, there's always an unlimited stuff you still don't know. Yes, the boring time, practice, sleep well, prepare the day itself, like make sure, you know exactly what to eat, what to drink. We talked about it last time. Make sure the day itself is smooth. Have a backup have a backup internet connection, have a backup power, have backup everything.
Sure.
And do as little as possible, especially the days before.
Yeah.
Sleeping, reading.
Cutoff is 24th. After that, no more study.
24 is.
Yeah, so 26th is my exam. So that's in the afternoon. So we'll have 1.5 days to kind of relax, rejuvenate, and see how things go.
Nice. So we get on the roughly 10th of September, we will get the feedback that you are a CTA now.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Limits. Brute force memorize all the limits and go through your cheat sheets over and over again. So I would actually make sure that you know the stuff you already know really good rather than learning something new.
Okay.
Sure. How did you go about that, Sam? What was your weak point, Sam? Now we can afterwards. What have you been afraid of? Sam, was there a topic you've been...
Yeah, forget something because generally I've got a poor memory, so forgetting things, or although typically you have a bit more time, I wouldn't miss any considerations. It's part of my day-to-day job is to sort of list out the reasons why I would do something and the reasons I wouldn't do something. But in a time pressure, that becomes a lot more difficult. So again, that's why I would say practice your justifications, think about, what assumptions could be invalidated and how you would answer those to, again, practice the justifications and the rationale. And from a limits perspective and a fact perspective, I'm far more a visual person. So if I see something on a screen, then I'm far more likely to remember it. So I used flashcards on a daily basis. So actually, half the time I wasn't actually memorizing the number itself. It was, what did that question look like, right? And in what context did I join it up to? And the answer just came to me as a result, right? So similarly with the OAuth flows, I've got a stack of probably about, 10 or 12 sheets of A4 that are covered front and back in OAuth diagrams, as many as I could pack in, just constantly doing them. And same with data models.
Sure.
It's less glamorous than it looks from the outside to become a CTA. It's a lot of really boring drawing overflows. One last thing I did, I don't know if Sam did it, there was a couple of limits I just couldn't remember. So when I got my PowerPoint, when the computer opened, I immediately wrote them on one of the slides. Just get it out of the way.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. I did a similar thing for my system architecture. So you know the parts of the of that particular the system architecture part of the exam guide. You know what you need to cover: reporting, mobile strategy, document strategy. So I almost, on a piece of paper, when I wrote just the first letter of each of those, so that when I came to my system landscape, I knew to talk about, this one, this aspect, or this domain, that domain, so it almost had a checklist on paper that I could refer to, and to make sure I hit everything.
It's a smart way of doing it. Very smart way. Okay. Should we wrap it up for today? It's 1.5 hours. Mohit, are you tired? Are you hungry? I hope so.
No.
No? Then we didn't.
I'm not. No, but we can wrap up. Thanks a lot, Johann. I think this was really insightful. Thanks, Sam, also for sharing those awesome tips.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Then have a good day and see you all soon. And I'm looking forward to your LinkedIn post and the Talent Hub. You have to go on Talent Hub, the podcast. This is why we actually do it.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks,
see you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.